A weeknight dinner party is always a lot of fun. And it doesn't have to be difficult. It can be part homemade and part purchased. So, tonight we're going to be doing just that. So, stay tuned and you're going to see all the goodies that we're going to have tonight. I'm Leona Dooley, and this is Ebony Ivy and Thyme. This is where home cooks are working together to prepare delicious, healthy dishes for the members of their family and friends. So, if you like these kinds of things, please visit often, subscribe, and if you like these kind of things, be sure to tap that like button before you leave. I'll see you soon. This week, I had the pleasure of showing a friend how to make jam. And Lord have mercy, we jammed it up. We made strawberry jam, we made cranberry jam. And it turned out so beautiful. And we had quite a bit of jam. So, because of that, I decided, well, let's make a few thumbprint cookies and add some of that jam to the cookies. So, we did that. But you know what? The most fun was the fact that I looked at her and thought, okay, let's have them over for dinner. And a weeknight is a perfect time to have another couple over for dinner. So that's exactly what I did. So let's get started, and I'm going to walk you through my plan. When you're planning a dinner party, even this small, just 4 people, there are certain things that you have to make sure that you do. Number one, you must start with a plan. Second, I wanted to make sure that I stayed on budget. My budget was if it wasn't in the house, I was not going to the grocery store to get it. So I'm going to work with what's in my pantries. Typically, number 3 would be to clean and decorate the area. Fortunately, I had already done that, and so I didn't have to stop and take care of step number 3. But you know what? Those are key things to keep in mind. But I did have to do a little clutter stop and make sure that the big guy, and maybe even I, had not left something out to be seen or get in the way. Now, I didn't need any additional cooking items, and certainly I want to make sure that my family or my guests are as welcome as anyone else. I didn't have to delegate any tasks because of the fact that my friend volunteered to prepare the baked beans. And when you're having a party this small, keep this in mind. I'm doing part homemade and part ready-made. So it's going to be very easy and lots of fun. I began this process by marinating my ribs, and I wanted them to be tender, and I wanted them to have just a little bit of crispiness on top. And so what I did was, as you can see, I'm taking them out. I needed to get them out of the package, make sure they were well thawed. And if you'll look at the ribs, you'll see that they have what's called a silver skin on the back. And if you leave that silver skin on the ribs, then you will find that they will be very tough to eat. So my effort today is to remove that silver skin and to get them into a bag so that they can marinate, because marinating is half the battle. Now, removing the silver skin is not easy. You have to somewhat take a knife and get underneath of the skin and raise it up to get it started. And as you can see, I started initially with using my fingers, trying to pull that up. But it's much easier if you use a paper towel to hold on to it, because then you have a really good grip. Now, in some cases, I was lucky enough to get my finger and hand underneath of that skin, which allowed me to really hold on to it. And then I was able to just pull it back, because the main thing is you want at least 95% of this to be gone. So I had 2 slabs of ribs, so that meant that I needed to do 2 silver, or to pull the silver skin off of both of those ribs. Once I removed the silver skin, then it was a matter of dividing this into portions. And I thought, well, with the size of the ribs, that about 3 bones would be a good portion for each person. And because we're at that age where we're not really eating whole slabs or half a slabs of ribs, so 3 bones is just enough. Anytime you are working with meat, it is necessary to clean up well. You'll notice that I put the ribs over into a Ziploc bag, and now it's all about cleaning up this board that I was working with. It's a good material, washes well. I'm going to start out with a little bit of Dawn, give it a good scrub, and then I'm going to go back in with some serious stuff. I like to use either a Clorox-based cleaner at the end or a vinegar based cleaner to go back and make sure that I've gotten rid of all the bacteria that may be lurking on this cutting board. So I'm going to do that, get that done, and then we're going to be ready to add the spices to the bag. We're going to keep these ribs in this bag overnight in the refrigerator. So we're starting with 2 teaspoons of Mrs. Dash. And this is a no salt version, so that's going to keep the salt content down. We're then going to add a 1/2 cup of Bragg's liquid aminos. Now, yes, Bragg's is going to give it a certain flavor, and it has just a small amount of salt. The thing about salt is that if you're not careful, too much salt will also toughen those ribs. So we want to be careful. We're going to add 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika to give it a very hickory smoke smell and flavor, as well as it's going to make the ribs look very pretty. Next, we're going to add house seasoning, and my house seasoning is a combination of garlic and onion powder along with black pepper, and that ratio you can change as much as you want to, but we're going to add that at this point. Now, everyone has their idea as to what their ribs should look like and taste like, and I have a little surprise. Mine is brown sugar. We need some brown sugar for several reasons. We want to sweeten up the flavor of the ribs, not sweet, but add a little molasses, because you know molasses goes in most people's barbecue sauce anyway, as well as brown sugar. So because of that, we're going to actually marinate these ribs in the brown sugar. So we're going to add that as well. We're going to zip that bag and then zhuzh it up to get all of those flavors all over all of the pieces of the barbecue. I'm going to then place it into a plastic container, and that container is going to sit in the refrigerator. The reason for doing that is because just in case any juices may accidentally leak out of the bag, they will go into the plastic container. I'm preparing a dinner for 4 tonight, and I'm going to keep it simple. So we're going to have ribs. We're going to have some succotash. We're going to have probably a little bit of salad because I've got to have my salad. And I'm going to bake those little thumbprint cookies, and we're going to have those for dessert. My friend is bringing some baked beans, and I've got some potato salad. So all of that together is going to be a nice, easy dinner for 4. So let's get it done. I think the first thing I'm going to do, since it's still early, I think the first thing I'll do is to go ahead and bake the cookies and get that out of the way. So let's get them on the pan. We already put them together, and all the little cookie balls are here. So all we have to do is add the jelly. Now these little balls of cookie dough are quite hard at this point because they've been sitting in the refrigerator for a couple of days. So I'm going to need to let them come up to room temperature. And once they hit room temperature, then I'll be able to gently press my finger into the cookie, make the imprint, and add the jelly. But, it's going to take a little while because they are hard as bricks. I'm going to need to let these sit and come to room temperature before I can put my thumbprint in them and add the jelly. I'm going to prepare the succotash early because I want all those flavors to really meld. And so we're going to do succotash in here. And I need some of my plant-based soup. So I'm going to be preparing that as well. When you're doing a plant-based soup, you want to make sure that you saute your vegetables, and I've got onions, red and green peppers already here. I'm going to add about a half cup of water, and I'm going to let this simmer. Over in the pot for the succotash, I have 2 tablespoons of butter, and it is salted, so I probably won't add any more salt. I'm also going to add in a good heaping teaspoon of garlic, and that kind of fell off. I'm just about at the end of this jar, and if all of us have garlic, then we won't ward the vampires off. I'm going to put what's left over here in my soup. It's 1 jar of garlic finished off. Okay. I'm also going to add in a teaspoon of Mrs. Dash, house seasoning, which has a bit of black pepper, garlic powder, onion powder. Sprinkle that in. And I'm going to add just a touch more of pepper. Remember, it's all about the flavoring. Okay, so I'm going to take my spoon, get this stirred up, bring it all up to temperature, And then we'll be ready to add the rest of the vegetables. Now we'll take this and add water. For my soup, I'm adding in a 32-ounce box of vegetable broth, or vegetable stock. There is absolutely nothing more delicious than a delicious pot of succotash. And it is so southern. And I've seen a lot of people do a lot of things with it. Sometimes, even I will put chopped mushrooms in, fresh mushrooms, or add tomatoes and okra to it to give it a different touch. But today, we're going to keep it pretty true with just the lima beans, the mirepoix, and we're going to add the corn, of course. So let's get this started. We want these lima beans to be very, very tender. When I make succotash or something like this, I usually try to make probably double the quantity than what most people would make. And the reason for that is because of the fact that I love having leftovers because they're always delicious or better the next day. I have the beans simmering, I have the soup simmering, and now let's make some homemade iced tea. So as you can see on the back burner, I'm going to boil a pot of water, and this is probably enough that other than just adding the ice to it, I will have a perfect 4-quart container full of delicious iced tea. The water has started boiling for the tea. So I'm going to add those 4 family size tea bags. And what I'm going to do is to let that steep for 7 minutes. At the end of the 7 minutes, I'm going to place it into its container and add 2 cups of sugar. Now, the amount of sugar, of course, is up to you. If you opt not to have sugar, that's totally up to you and your guest. My guests like truly Southern iced tea, which means they want it sweet. And so because of that, I'm adding 2 cups, where normally if it were just the big guy, and I would probably only add 1 or none. So we're going to add that sugar, going to give it a good stir, and then we're going to add a gallon-sized bag full of ice, and that's going to chill it off, and I'll place it into the refrigerator so it's ready for tonight's weeknight dinner party. The thumbprints have been sitting on the counter getting thawed, basically, because they had been sitting in the refrigerator and they were extremely cold. So they had to get soft enough that I could press my thumb into the center and make the indentation. So now that I've done that, I'm ready to add the jam, and I've got our homemade cranberry jam ready to go in each of those little thumbprints. Once I've placed all the jam into I'll probably do 2 pans, both of those pans. Then I will go ahead and bake them. Now, when you bake them, I'm going to bake them on 350, and you're going to want to watch them because you're going to want them to very slightly brown on the bottom. But for the most part, they're still going to have a very light color, and that's good because you don't want these cookies to be too hard. Remember, this is a shortbread cookie, so it's going to be just a little bit crumbly, and when you bite into it, that jam and that shortbread is going to be perfect. I'm baking my cookies 1 sheet at a time. And the reason for doing that is because of the fact that I want them to bake evenly and I want them to brown perfectly. I'm putting them in the center of the oven so that there's good heat and air circulation, which will help those cookies bake consistently. If you bake it on the bottom rack too close to your heat source, then you can end up with burnt bottoms. And if you put it on the top rack, sometimes that's the furthest point from the heat and can result in your cookies that's just spread too much. we're going to work on decorating the table. And not so much decorating, but I do want it to look nice when my guests come in. And so, because of that, first I've got to get it clean. But I'm going to turn some music on for you, and we're just going to do it together. Well, guys, it's time for those ribs to go in the oven. And my plan is to have a set of ribs for each person and to have some left over because I want to send a few home with my guest. And so I've done that, as well as I've got a couple of extra that I'm going to throw in the freezer for another night for the big guy. So we're going to get those ready to get them into the oven, and I'm going to place them on a 400-degree oven and let them bake. And then I'll take them out and turn the convection oven on and start basting them with barbecue sauce. One of the key things to keep in mind when you're planning a dinner party, whether it's a weeknight dinner party or whether it's a holiday soiree, you want to multitask. And so that's exactly what I've done today. And so I'm going to take the time to get the soup into the soup containers so that I can place them at a point where they can cool and be ready for the refrigerator. And then it's just a matter of my getting cleaned up, making sure everything is wiped off because the meat is in the oven. The lima beans are all ready, and they are just sitting there. And just before time for the guests to come in, I'll turn them back on to get them nice and hot. The tomatoes are already sliced, onions are sliced, dessert is ready. So let's finish things up. Don't those ribs look amazing? I basted them 3 times and each time gave them 15 minutes in between in the convection oven so it could somewhat air fry. And you'll see that they are just perfect. They were nice and tender thanks to marinating. You'll notice also that our soup is ready, our salad is ready, our forks and knives are ready, and we're ready to celebrate a night during autumn. So, dessert is on the counter, ready to be served, as well as a little bit of pumpkin bread. We've made the plan, we worked the plan, and now everybody gets to sit down and have a great dinner. Now, I hope you have enjoyed yourself, and I thank you for coming to the channel. If you're not a regular, then please subscribe. And if you like these kinds of things, please give me a thumbs up before you leave. So, have a great time, and I'll see you soon, right here at Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme.